Nephrotic syndrome is a clinical disorder caused by increased permeability of the glomerular filtration barrier, leading to massive loss of protein in the urine. The diagnostic criteria include proteinuria greater than or equal to 3.5 grams per 24 hours, or a urine protein to creatinine ratio greater than 3.0 grams per gram. Hypoalbuminemia with serum albumin less than 3.0 grams per deciliter in adults and less than or equal to 2.5 grams per deciliter in children, peripheral edema, and hyperlipidemia. Hypoalbuminemia and edema are required for diagnosis, while proteinuria is the essential hallmark. Nephrotic syndrome is classified by etiology. Primary or idiopathic nephrotic syndrome is confined to the kidney without an identifiable systemic cause, and it is the most common form in both children and adults. Secondary nephrotic syndrome is caused by systemic diseases, including diabetes mellitus, lupus erythematosus, amyloidosis, infections such as hepatitis B and C, HIV, and syphilis, medications like non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, gold, and penicillamine, and malignancies such as Hodgkin lymphoma and solid tumors. The primary glomerular diseases that cause nephrotic syndrome include minimal change disease, which is the most common cause in children, accounting for approximately 90% of cases. It is characterized by normal light microscopy with diffuse foot process effacement on electron microscopy and is usually steroid responsive. Focal segmental glomerulosclerosis is the most common cause in non-Caucasian adults, especially those of African descent. It is characterized by scarring of portions of some glomerular tufts and is often steroid-resistant with progressive renal failure. Membranous nephropathy is the most common cause in Caucasian adults, characterized by subepithelial immune complex deposits with thickening of the glomerular basement membrane, and it is often associated with antiphospholipase A2 receptor antibodies. The pathophysiology of nephrotic syndrome centers on podocyte injury. The podocyte is the primary target of injury. These specialized epithelial cells maintain the glomerular filtration barrier. When injured, podocytes retract their foot processes, leading to fusion and flattening, a finding called foot process effacement. This is a general finding in all causes of nephrotic syndrome. The damage allows large plasma proteins, especially albumin, to leak through the filtration barrier into the urine. Massive urinary protein loss exceeds the liver's synthetic capacity, leading to low serum albumin. Edema results from reduced plasma oncotic pressure due to hypoalbuminemia, primary sodium retention by the kidney, and activation of the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. Hyperlipidemia occurs because of increased hepatic lipoprotein synthesis due to hypoalbuminemia, coupled with reduced catabolism of lipoproteins. The clinical presentation of nephrotic syndrome most commonly begins with edema. Edema is initially noted in dependent regions such as the ankles, legs, and periorbital area. It may progress to generalized anasarca, ascites, and pleural effusions. Frothy urine is due to heavy proteinuria causing surface tension changes. Fatigue and malaise are related to hypoalbuminemia and underlying disease. Weight gain occurs from fluid retention. Complications may include dyspnea from pulmonary edema or pleural effusions. Complications of nephrotic syndrome include thromboembolism, which is a hypercoagulable state due to urinary loss of antithrombin 3, increased procoagulant factors, and platelet hyperaggregability. The risk is highest when serum albumin is less than 2.5 grams per deciliter, especially in membranous nephropathy. Thromboembolic events include deep vein thrombosis, renal vein thrombosis, and pulmonary embolism. Infections are more common due to urinary loss of immunoglobulins and complement factors. The most common infections are cellulitis, peritonitis, pneumonia, and sepsis. Encapsulated organisms pose a particular risk. Acute kidney injury is multifactorial, often from hypovolemia, nephrotoxic medications, sepsis, or renal vein thrombosis. Cardiovascular disease risk is increased because dyslipidemia raises the risk of myocardial infarction and stroke. Protein energy malnutrition occurs due to massive protein loss. Vitamin D deficiency from loss of vitamin D binding protein leads to hypocalcemia and bone disease. The diagnostic workup begins with urinalysis. On dipstick, expect 3 plus or 4 plus protein, indicating nephrotic range proteinuria. The urine sediment may show oval fat bodies and fatty casts, which appear as Maltese crosses under polarized light. Waxy casts indicate proteinuric kidney disease. Microscopic hematuria may be present in some forms, such as membranous nephropathy and focal segmental glomerulosclerosis, but it is absent in minimal change disease. Quantitation of proteinuria is done with a 24-hour urine collection, which should show greater than 3.5 grams per day, or a spot urine protein to creatinine ratio, which should be greater than 3.0 grams per gram. Serum studies include serum albumin, which is expected to be less than 3.0 grams per deciliter in adults and less than or equal to 2.5 grams per deciliter in children. Serum creatinine and estimated glomerular filtration rate assess renal function and may be normal or elevated. The lipid profile typically shows hypercholesterolemia and hypertriglyceridemia. Complement C3 and C4 levels are helpful. Low complement suggests secondary causes such as lupus, post-infectious glomerulonephritis, or membranoproliferative glomerulonephritis, while normal complement suggests primary nephrotic syndrome, including minimal change disease, focal segmental glomerulosclerosis, and membranous nephropathy. Anti-nuclear antibodies help rule out lupus nephritis. Antiphospholipase A2 receptor antibodies are positive in 70 to 80% of primary membranous nephropathy and may eliminate the need for biopsy. Hepatitis B and C, HIV, and syphilis serologies rule out secondary causes. Serum and urine protein. Electrophoresis screen for multiple myeloma or amyloidosis. Renal ultrasound typically shows normal-sized or enlarged kidneys with increased echogenicity, and it excludes obstruction or stones. Kidney biopsy is indicated in adults with new-onset nephrotic syndrome when a primary renal disease is suspected that may require immunosuppressive therapy. In children, biopsy is performed if the disease is steroid-resistant or if atypical features are present. Biopsy provides definitive histologic diagnosis through light microscopy, immunofluorescence, and electron microscopy. Management follows general principles. Treat the underlying cause when identified, control edema, reduce proteinuria, manage complications, and slow disease progression. A multidisciplinary approach involving nephrology, cardiology, and primary care is essential. Supportive care includes sodium restriction to 2 grams per day to reduce fluid retention. Diuretics are used for moderate to severe edema. Loop diuretics, such as furosemide, starting at 20 to 40 milligrams orally daily or intravenously, are often required. Higher doses may be needed because hypoalbuminemia reduces diuretic delivery to the kidney tubule. Angiotensin-converting enzyme inhibitors, or ACE inhibitors, and angiotensin receptor blockers, or ARB, are first-line agents for reducing proteinuria and slowing kidney disease progression. Examples include lisinopril, starting at 5 to 10 milligrams daily, or losartan, starting at 25 to 50 milligrams daily. Sodium glucose cotransporter 2 inhibitors, or SGLT2 inhibitors, have emerging evidence supporting their use to reduce proteinuria and slow GFR decline in proteinuric glomerular diseases. Examples include empagliflozin 10 milligrams daily or dapagliflozin 10 milligrams daily. For lipid management, statins such as atorvastatin 10 to 20 milligrams daily are used for persistent hyperlipidemia. Prophylactic anticoagulation is considered in patients with serum albumin less than 2.0 to 2.5 grams per deciliter, especially with membranous nephropathy or prior thromboembolism. The decision balances thrombotic risk against bleeding risk. Vaccinations including pneumococcal, influenza, and COVID-19 vaccines are recommended. Live vaccines should be avoided during immunosuppressive therapy. Immunosuppressive therapy is guided by histology and clinical response. For minimal change disease, First-line therapy is corticosteroids, such as prednisone or prednisolone. In children, the dose is 2 milligrams per kilogram per day, not exceeding 80 milligrams, for 4 to 6 weeks, followed by an alternate day taper over 2 to 3 months. In adults, the dose is 1 milligram per kilogram per day, not exceeding 80 milligrams, for up to 16 weeks. Approximately 90% of children respond within 2 weeks, while adults respond more slowly. For steroid-dependent or frequently relapsing minimal change disease, consider steroid-sparing agents including calcineurin inhibitors such as cyclosporin at 3 to 5 milligrams per kilogram per day or tacrolimus at 0.1 to 0.2 milligrams per kilogram per day. Mycophenolate mofetil at 500 to 1,000 milligrams twice daily. Rituximab at 375 milligrams per square meter weekly for 1 to 4 doses, or cyclophosphamide at 2 milligrams per kilogram per day for 8 to 12 weeks. For focal segmental glomerulosclerosis, first-line therapy is corticosteroids for 4 to 16 weeks. Approximately 40 to 60% achieve remission. Calcineurin inhibitors, cyclosporin, or tacrolimus, are used for steroid-resistant or steroid-dependent cases. Consider rituximab or mycophenolate mofetil in resistant cases. Genetic testing for NPHS1 and NPHS2 mutations should be performed in children with steroid-resistant disease. For membranous nephropathy, antiphospholipase A2 receptor antibody-positive patients undergo a risk-stratified approach. Low-risk patients receive conservative management with ACE inhibitors or ARB and blood pressure control. Immunosuppression is indicated for moderate to high-risk or progressive disease. Regimens include cyclophosphamide, alternating with corticosteroids using the modified Ponticelli regimen. Methylprednisolone, 1 gram daily intravenously for 3 days at months 1, 3, and 5, plus oral cyclophosphamide 2.5 milligrams per kilogram per day for 30 days at months 2, 4, and 6. Alternatively, rituximab can be given as 1 gram on days 1 and 15 or 375 milligrams per square meter weekly for 4 weeks. Calcineurin inhibitors are alternative second-line therapy. The KDIGO 2025 guidelines for children recommend initial corticosteroids for 8 to 12 weeks, consisting of 4 to 6 weeks of daily doses followed by 4 to 6 weeks of alternate day doses. Steroid use during infections should be individualized, and routine steroid administration is not recommended. For frequently relapsing or steroid-dependent nephrotic syndrome, combination therapy with steroid-sparing agents including calcineurin inhibitors, rituximab, cyclophosphamide, levamisole, and mycophenolate mofetil is recommended. For steroid-resistant nephrotic syndrome, perform genetic testing as early as possible. Calcineurin inhibitors are the initial second-line treatment. Monitoring and follow-up include checking proteinuria using the urine protein-to-creatinine ratio or 24-hour collection every 1 to 3 months during active treatment. Serum creatinine, estimated glomerular filtration rate, and albumin should be monitored every 1 to 3 months. Blood pressure should be monitored regularly with a target of less than 130 over 80 millimeters of mercury. Monitor for drug side effects including complete blood count, liver function tests, glucose, and lipids. For patients on calcineurin inhibitors, monitor drug levels and renal function. For patients on rituximab, monitor for infusion reactions and late-onset neutropenia. Assess for complications including edema, thromboembolic symptoms, infections, and nutritional status. Prognosis depends on underlying histology, response to therapy, and development of complications. Minimal change disease has an excellent prognosis in children, with 95% remission with steroids. Adults have a good response but higher relapse rates. Focal segmental glomerulosclerosis has a variable prognosis. 40 to 60% achieve remission. Progressive disease leads to end-stage renal disease in 5 to 10 years without response. Membranous nephropathy has spontaneous remission in 30%. With immunosuppression, 70 to 80% achieve remission. The disease progresses slowly over years to decades. Persistent nephrotic syndrome leads to progressive loss of kidney function, cardiovascular disease, and increased mortality. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you in the next one.